For generations, the lands between the Asherah and Kavara tribes had been soaked in blood. The golden plains, rolling hills, and winding rivers that should have nourished life were instead scarred by war. Children grew up hearing tales of betrayal, of raids and counter-raids, of fathers slain and mothers widowed. Among the Asherah people, the name Kavara was whispered with fear and anger, a name that carried centuries of hatred. At the center of this tempest stood Jahari, the young chief of the Asherah. His father had been killed by the Kavara when Jahari was a boy, leaving him with a burning desire for vengeance. Yet, Jahari had grown into a man not only strong in body but wise in spirit. He was loved by his people for his courage and respected for his fairness. His heart carried both the pain of loss and the burden of leadership. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills and painted the plains with fire, Jahari stood at the edge of the Asherah village. His eyes swept over the golden fields and the thatched homes of his people. Mothers hummed lullabies, children laughed, and the elderly tended small fires. All of it seemed fragile, delicate, threatened by the shadow that loomed beyond the hills. A messenger arrived, galloping on a dark steed, his breath ragged. "Chief Jahari," he said, bowing, "the Kavara have gathered their warriors. They march at dawn. They intend to burn our villages, take our children, and spill our blood." Jahari's heart clenched. He could feel the surge of anger rising, the old, familiar call for revenge. But he also felt something else, a cold, gnawing fear. If he retaliated with the full force of the Asherah warriors, there would be no survivors on either side. His people could die in the cycle of vengeance before a single blade of grass healed. Chapter 2, The Shadow of Total Destruction. Night fell heavy over the village. The winds carried the distant sound of drums, the Kavara preparing for war. Jahari called a council of elders and war chiefs. Toran, his oldest advisor, spoke first. "Jahari, the Kavara have strength in numbers. If we attack, we may destroy them, but our villages will burn first. Your people, your family, they will not survive." Jahari nodded, knowing Toran was right. "We cannot fight them and survive," he admitted, the words tasting bitter on his tongue. "And yet, I cannot ignore what they have done to us. My father, my brothers, all lost." The elders looked at each other, grim and silent. None dared tell Jahari what he already knew: the cost of revenge could be total annihilation. As the night deepened, Jahari walked alone to the edge of the river, staring into the dark water. He saw the reflection of his own face, shadowed and haunted. He had been raised to avenge his family, to honor their memory through retaliation. But now the river whispered a different truth: honor alone would not feed the mouths of the living. Survival demanded sacrifice, a courage far greater than the courage of the battlefield. The following morning, Jahari sought counsel from the spiritual elders, the women and men who spoke with the voices of the ancestors. In the sacred grove, where ancient stones formed a circle of silence and power, he knelt. "Great spirits of Asherah," he prayed, "grant me guidance. My heart burns for revenge, yet my people's lives hang in the balance. Show me the path of honor and wisdom." An old priestess, Nia, approached him. Her hair was silver as the moon, her eyes sharp and piercing. "Jahari," she said softly, "honor is not in the taking of lives. Honor is in the protection of those entrusted to you. Your people look to you not for vengeance, but for survival." Her words struck him like a thunderbolt. Jahari had always equated strength with wrath. But perhaps there was a strength far greater, one that required patience, restraint, and courage of a different kind. Days passed, and the drums of war grew louder. Jahari spent hours walking the plains, contemplating the choice before him. The faces of his father, brothers, and fallen warriors haunted him. Every fiber of his being screamed for revenge. He imagined leading his warriors into the Kavara village, burning their homes, seeing justice done. But then he imagined the aftermath, the fields aflame, the screams of his own people, children crying for parents who would never return. He saw mothers collapsing in grief, his elders lying lifeless, his people scattered and broken. Could he live with that? Could he stand among survivors and claim honor while his people suffered? The battle he faced was not against another tribe but within himself. The desire for revenge warred with the instinct to protect. The ancestral voices, the echoes of the elders, and the faces of the living demanded a choice that would define his legacy. Dawn broke over the plains. The Kivara warriors were visible on the horizon, a dark wave of spears, shields, and torches. The Asherah villagers trembled in their homes, children clinging to mothers, elders holding hands in silent prayer. Jahari climbed atop the central hill, raising his hand for silence. People of Asherah, he called. The Kivara march to destroy us. And yes, they have taken from us what cannot be replaced. But if we strike back in rage, all of us will perish. A murmur of fear ran through the crowd. What shall we do, chief? Asked a young warrior, gripping his spear. Jahari's voice was steady. We choose life. We lay down our weapons, we show mercy, and we offer peace. Not for them, but for us, for the children, for the generations yet to come. Today, we break the cycle of blood. Some warriors gasped. Some clenched fists in disbelief. But the conviction in Jahari's eyes, the courage it took to resist vengeance, silenced them. Jahari led a small delegation to meet the Kivara chief. As they approached, the Kivara warriors tensed, ready to strike. Jahari stepped forward alone. I am Jahari, chief of Asherah, he announced. I come not with war, but with a choice. Spare my people, and we will not retaliate. Take vengeance, and you destroy all of us. The cycle ends here, today, by my decision, not by my anger. The Kivara chief, Makalo, studied him for a long moment. He saw the fire in Jahari's eyes, not the fire of revenge, but of steadfast courage. Slowly, he lowered his spear. The cycle ends today, Makalo said. Let it be known that Asherah lives, and Kivara lives. Neither tribe shall strike the other in this generation. Jahari returned to his people, not with the triumph of war, but with the relief of survival. Mothers wept, children laughed, and the warriors who had expected bloodshed looked at him with awe. He had sacrificed his personal vengeance to save hundreds, perhaps thousands of lives. Weeks later, peace slowly returned to the land. Fields were replanted, villages repaired, and old animosities softened. The story of Jahari's courage spread beyond the Asherah lands, reaching even the Kivara elders. Though some of his own warriors murmured about lost honor, Jahari's name became synonymous with wisdom and mercy. He proved that true strength lay not in the sword, but in the ability to restrain it. Years later, when children played in the Golden Plains, their mothers would tell them of the chief who had chosen life over vengeance. They would speak of Jahari, the leader who dared to save his people by giving up revenge, and the world would remember that the cycle of blood could be broken, not by force, but by courage, wisdom, and the unshakable love of one leader for his people. And so, the Asherah thrived, carrying the legacy of a chief who taught them that mercy can be mightier than the sword, and that sometimes, the hardest battle is the one we fight within ourselves.